So let's talk about planning for your portfolio. So when you think about the content of the portfolio, usually you're gonna have between 15 to 20 pages of portfolio and to have around 3 to 4 projects per portfolio. Why is it important to have multiple projects but still have them limited to a number of 3 to 4? Even just 2 would actually work. I remember seeing portfolio in the past where people would actually have a lot of work, so maybe 20 pages of work, but all the work are individual illustration. You would jump from like an environment illustration to suddenly a creature design to suddenly like a page of like thumbnail for props. And even if individually like all those designs were very cool and very interesting, if you cannot show how they would all fit into the same project, that can be a bit tricky for people to really be able to judge your skill as a designer, and also to be able to like make people understand that you could understand art direction. So having different projects in your portfolio will give you the opportunity to explore environment, character, and props, but have them fit within this world. Now, if you have a project that is cartoony like Steven Universe, you want to show that you're able to design characters, props, environment that fit into this style and into this world. So you can prove to the people reviewing your portfolio that you understand art direction and you can stick to it. It would be way more clear and give a more organized portfolio for people who are going to review your portfolio, rather than having like individual illustration, as I mentioned before. So per project, you might want to have between 5 to 7 pages. Now you're starting a new project, you have all these really cool ideas in your mind, and you want to draw everything. You think, oh, what if the character looked like this? And you start to design, then, oh, what about the environment is like that? And you get really excited and you start to do all the scribble, which is great because you're excited. It's the beginning of a new adventure, of a new project. Your energy is really high because you're that excited. It's not really about what you want to draw, but more about what you need to draw. So instead of designing what I want to make, you need to work in reverse and see what do you need for your portfolio. So you might think about concept artist as a general term, but there is different kind of concept artist. And you need to take a decision of like, what kind of concept artist would you like to become? So you need to define what kind of concept artist and what kind of portfolio that you want. It could be a generalist-driven portfolio, or a character portfolio, or even an environment portfolio. Those are the most common example, but it's not limited to this. You could be a creature designer, or maybe you're very good at designing weapons, and so you could have your whole portfolio like about designing props, especially weapon-like props. And how do you define if you want your portfolio to be character, environment, or general driven? Well, it depends on what you love. And this is something that is quite important as well when you pick your new project for your portfolio, is you need to work on what you love the most. And this covers a lot of things. For example, for style, if you prefer realistic or stylized, about a topic, if you prefer fantasy, sci-fi, historical event, etc., etc. If you love the ancient Greek culture, do a project about it. Or if you get really excited about treasure hunt, you could totally do a project about that. Or even something as simple as baking. If you love baking, you could totally make a project about this. So if you look at my own portfolio, I obviously love anything that is animation and stylized. And there is some topic or theme that are always coming back, such as myth, adventure, new world fantasy, and anthropomorphic characters. And you can see it with the Pig People project. You have anthropomorphic characters. You get world building regarding like how would a world built by and for pigs would look like. And you have fantasy, because I'm still thinking about having this merpig character kind of living in a fantasy world where they may have some kind of magic or something like this. So why is it so important to have your portfolio filled up with what you love? Well, one of the main reasons is that you don't want to get hired on a project that you don't like. So at the end of the day, being a concept artist is a job like any other job. There are gonna be days when you're gonna be very excited about it, and there will be days where you will be very unmotivated to work. It's a job. And like any other job, there is up and down, and that's gonna happen. But you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're working on a project that you really hate. And I know for some of you out there, especially if you are like a beginner and you never had the opportunity to work yet, you just want to get that first job. And so you might go on the internet, you might go on maybe Outstation and things like, oh, but look, this is what is trendy right now. Everybody is doing this. It looks so cool. Clearly, if I copy that, or if I do the same style or similar subject or anything, I'll get a job for sure. I mean, from what we were talking earlier when we were doing the design board, etc., you can see like there is a lot of research that you need to do on the subject. And therefore, if you have zero interest whatsoever, or if you are repulsed by a topic or or a subject, why would you force yourself to like spend weeks or months on this? Another reason is that we can tell when you're having fun or not with your design. Usually, I don't really like to admit it, but because we draw, and because this is an activity that a lot of us have been doing since we were a child, we are emotionally bonding with our work on a daily basis. I wish it was different because it's incredibly tiring and emotionally draining as well, at times. Not always, but at times it is. I don't like to admit this because I like to believe that we are all professional, and no matter what the subject, no matter what the client wants, we should be there to support their idea and to support their vision. I feel like I'm doing a political speech by doing this. Sorry about that. But we joke about it, like you have to be professional, you should be able to let your emotion aside when you work on a project. But it is true, like you can really tell when a design is very fun and unique and creative that the person who was doing this was also enjoying themselves very much when they were doing this. While sometimes if you see people working on like topic that they kind of like, yeah, I don't care, but I guess this is what everybody is doing, you can feel that you can feel like the design or the art or the illustration or the concept, it's kind of dead and kind of soulless. It kind of goes into that bucket of like, oh, that piece of art that I've seen already hundreds and thousands of times online, and that there's nothing that kind of make it really stand out from everybody else just because it just looks like everybody else. Sorry, I realize I sound very preachy here. I'm really sorry about this. I hope it makes sense though, hopefully. But again, I do remember when I was myself a junior concept artist and I was struggling to get some work, that my reaction was like, oh, who cares about what you like? Like, tell me, what do I need in my portfolio so I can just get my first job? And then from there, I might switch to something that I actually like, because it's very hard to get that first step into the industry. So okay, I'm gonna give you an example of what I think could be like a portfolio that would get a job quite easily in the industry. It's just an example. Some people might disagree, and it's okay. But this is what I think could help you a lot to get a job. All right, first of all, focus on props and environment. I know a lot of us want to do character, but really, in a video game or in a movie, you might have 5 main characters, but you have a lot of props and environment that the character are going to interact with. So here you go, just in terms of quantity, there is just more job opportunity there. Second, prioritize those clean line draws and painting, very clean one, not loose or artsy or painterly design. And I know a lot of us like to go for like this artsy style, but really, if you're a junior, this is not recommended at all. And lastly, do a lot of turnaround, orthographic view, and 3/4 view. I will show you some example about these later on. So why? Why would we want our portfolio to be that boring? Well, first of all, as I mentioned before, there is way more environment and character in any APs that exist. The artsy and cool looking design will be done by seniors, and your job will be to clean what they draw. And your job is going to make it clean, so probably 3D artists actually knows how to build them in 3D. And this is why also the use of turnaround, orthographic, and three-quarter view are very ideal, because you might get handed over a very nice, beautiful, artsy, painterly drawings of a room from a senior, and your job is going to be to do like a three-quarter view of that room with a clean line draw, so the 3D artist knows exactly where to put which props. So weirdly enough, it's a bit hard for a lot of junior to grasp, but yeah, when you start as a junior, you are not gonna do the art direction. You are not gonna be the one who do a beautiful illustration, printerly illustration, and hand it over to the 3D artist and let them deal with that. Now your job is most likely that you're gonna do a lot of cleaning. And also that's how you will realize that being a concept artist, it's not about you and about your art. It's also about like how can you be useful for the project, for the team, and how can you make life easier for the rest of the team. So for example, having a good understanding of volume, of perspective, and how 3D works in general. I'm not talking about like using 3D software, but understand how an object looks like in different point of view. That's why we talk about the orthographic view, when you show like the front, the top, the back of an object, the side view and stuff like that. This is when you're going to be very useful to make the life of 3D artists so much easier. They gotta love you, and this is how you're going to be able to keep your job for a long time. So again, this is what I think could be a portfolio that would help you to get a first job very easily. This is just my point of view. Feel free to contact other concept artists, other people you look up to, and ask them about their portfolio, what they think would be a portfolio that would help you to get a job in the industry very easily. And now I would like to go a little bit more in detail for portfolio that is character driven and environment driven. So let's try to go through this pretty quickly. About a character-oriented portfolio, we could have a character lineup for all the character, so you can see the relationship between the character. What's their size compared to each other? Is the silhouette reading correctly? Is a silhouette very different from a character to another one, so it's easy to recognize them from each other? And is the style consistent from a character to another one? Another one would be character thumbnailing. So this is very useful for people to have a glimpse of the process or that you have and how you think when you are designing. That could be just loose sketches, but also some black and white silhouette thumbnail, etc. Character turnaround. I really don't see this one quite often in portfolio, and yet if you want to be a character designer, especially for stylized character, it's incredibly useful for the process, and it's incredibly useful for like the 3D artists to have this one. So remember to have that. It's quite important. Character expression. So that's another way that is very good for people to see, like, do you understand the character you're designing? Because just like normal human, the way I laugh is going to be very different from the way my best friend or my mom is gonna laugh, and that's completely normal. So are you able to show the difference of personality of your character? A production shot. So you can show like a nice fully rendered version of your character in an environment, and it's a very good way to show what's the relationship of the character with other character, the relationship with the environment, and again, is the style of the character consistent with the style of the environment? And another one would be to include some figure drawing and studies. So that's quite new, but it's a feedback that I got quite often when I was at the convention in America. Just because, again, just like the character thumbnailing, it's a very nice way for people to be able to understand what's going on in your head whenever you decide to stylize a character. Do you actually understand what you are drawing? I know a lot of people, I heard that too many times, are using the excuse of like, I'm doing stylized, therefore this is why I don't need to know human anatomy or perspective, and that is bad. Yes. No, you need to know your fundamentals. You need to know your human anatomy, and you need to know your perspective. Therefore, figure drawings and studies would be a good way for you to prove that you know what you're doing and that you're not just kind of like eyeballing human anatomy or perspective. All right, here we go with a character lineup. So again, here you can see that it's very easy to see the silhouette of the character from one to another one. You can see the size compared to each other as well. And you can see like the style is pretty consistent from a character to another one. Here you have some like thumbnailing where I was exploring different variation for the uniform of the characters. Same with this one, but this time in colors. Here we have some character turnaround that I told you were very important, so please remember to have that. Like every time I'm showing my portfolio to people, like that page always make people stop, so yeah, go for it. This one is not in my portfolio, but it's another example of turnaround you can have with color as well. You can also have some like fully rendered illustration of your character. And here are some production shots when you can see the relationship of the character with each other, but also like how the environment looks like and how you can keep the environment consistent with the style of the characters. Sadly, I don't have any character expression or figure drawing and anatomy, but that's also because I am not a character designer. I mostly do environments and props, but I'm pretty sure you can go online and find like beautiful reference to get inspired from. Alright, now what about environments-oriented portfolios? So you're gonna see there is a lot of similarity. Alright, a fully rendered final prod shot of your environment to sell the design and sell the story that comes with it. So you can have black and white thumbnail or sketches. Also some turnaround, if you have, for example, a building, a house or something like that. And the main difference between like an environment-oriented portfolio and I guess a character-oriented portfolio would be 3/4 top view. So this would be the example of a prod shot or production shot, sorry, that will help you to like sell the mood and the overall design of the environment. Here we have some example of thumbnailing. So I did like both in black and white with some loose sketch and also a little bit in color because I wanted to experience with like mood painting, and yes, I am not very good at this. Some of my favorite ones to do are the design exploration and the sketches for an environment. So you have a first example here. This is a second example where you see more of an outdoor or like outside of a house. And here are just like some like very fun thumbnailing of like different kind of building that could exist in the Carrot People village. You can also have like a bit more detailed design with line work, and also I was starting to do some exploration in 3D. So here you can see like I combine a bit of the two. You get like some like a 3/4 top view of the house, and also on the side you can see there is a left view and a right view of the building, so without any vegetation or any like extra decoration, so a 3D artist could look at this and know exactly how to build that. Okay, I didn't put it into the list, but this is another page of my portfolio that makes people stop whenever they're going through my portfolio. It's pretty much some detail on decoration and some texture that I use for my design. It's not the sexiest job, it is not the most interesting one either, but this is useful. You need this in production, and so having a few of these in your portfolio also show that you understand that you're not just here to do pretty drawings. Like there is so much more that you need to work on and so much more design that need to be think of. Again, all these are just guidance. This is what I think is important to be in a portfolio that is either character driven or environment driven, but you don't have to follow this. I think like it's really like the main idea is like to know what you want to have in your portfolio and make sure like no matter what is needed for your portfolio, make sure you also match what you like and what you love. I'm gonna give you like two very quick stories about my husband and myself. So the two of us, when we graduated from the concept art school and that we were looking for a job, just like most people, we just wanted to land that first job to get a foot in the industry. And as a result, we were tuning our portfolio so it matched what would give us the highest chance to be hired, which means like do a lot of environment and a lot of props design. Now what happened, we both got a job pretty quickly, so that was good. And the job were mostly about doing environment and props. Now what happened is that the more you do something, the better you get at it. the better you get at it, the more job offer you get about that. So the more environment you do, the better you become at making environment, and therefore the more job offer about environment design you are going to get. Now, in the case of my husband, he grew up a bit tired of environment because he always wanted to be a character designer, and he found himself a bit stuck into this position of like, oh, but now I'm known as the guy who does very good environment, and I really want to change that. And making that change, that switch, after a few years of doing, let's say, just environment, as it is the case here, it's very hard because a lot of people will start to associate your name with a type of work, which is normal. So for him, it's been very dreadful. So if you know at heart you're a character designer, try to focus on that. You can have a few environments and a few props design in your portfolio to kind of say like, hey, I really love to do character, sorry, but I can also do a bit of environment and props if needed. So maybe if your portfolio have like 70% of character work and then the rest would be props and environment, that could be a good start. So people can see like, okay, you can do these other things that we can use and that is useful, but we understand like mostly you like to do character work, and vice versa if you want to do character environment work, or if you want to do creature work, etc., etc. To wrap up the story, so I was in the same situation as my husband, sorry, but the main difference is that I start to really enjoy doing environments. So I've been hired firstly because like, oh, you can draw in perspective, cool, I guess we can trust you with environment. And I was like, okay. And so here we go, I start to do more environment and more props, and I start to get hired more and more to do this kind of work. So the truth is like at the beginning I also wanted to be a character designer, but now I have as much enjoyment from doing environment or character or props design. So when people ask me like, oh, what kind of concept artist you want to be, I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'm just gonna be a generalist because I get the same excitement from doing anything. So here you go. So I got lucky, but I know like I might not be the majority of people. So just to avoid having yourself stuffed into an uncomfortable situation and having to do a switch in the future, just help yourself and just make it clear from now on like what you actually really like. And it's also for the subject. If you like to do mythology stuff and you don't like to do like historical based events, and you more for like the fantasy part of life, just make it clear in your portfolio so you don't get hired on a project that you don't really like but you do anyway, and then people say, oh, you're the guy who does historical stuff, you must love that, and you're like, not really, but then you find yourself stuck into doing this again and again. So just be mindful. That's a small advice. Okay, story time over. Let's get back to our project. Now we list down what would be the difference between character, environment, and generalist portfolio. So this project, I'm again gonna go toward a generalist portfolio with maybe putting more emphasis or a priority on environment and props.